Okay. Oh my gosh. I forgot to put my shirt. Last minute. Ready? Oh yeah. Okay. First of all, I'd like to offer my obeisances to everyone. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhya evacha patitanang pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. And our prayers to Srila Prabhupada for his presence, for his blessings, and for his empowerment. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitanamane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pricharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskacha Deshe Tarne. I thank you all for being here.
Our obeisances to you, Gurudev. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Narahari Das Gurudev Iti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskacha Deshe Tarne. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, Prabhuji. You're all so kind. Hare Krishna Shita. Nice to have you with us
Hare
again.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Ellie. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna, my obeisances, you, my dear. So, before we get into our questions, does anyone have any special, interesting epiphanies or realizations that have come up in the past since we last met? I see texts are coming in. They never seem to quit.
I had one,
Oh, we have
actually.
a question from Sandhya. It's a nice question. Let's see how far we get. I like your question. I might want to um, read back over. Well, I'll read the question, and I think I may defer until next time for answering the question. I sometimes a question I want to look a little bit and refresh my mind on that particular subject. That's a great
And,
question, Sandhya.
and Gurudev, I think that Ellie was going to share something, a realization or something.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ellie dear. Fire away.
Um, yeah, this week I've just really settled into recognizing how little we have to actually do when we start really surrendering to Krishna and his will and Prabhupada's will. When we live only for Krishna, everything becomes so easy and things go so smoothly, even when there are like inevitable calamities.
Thank you
Um,
for adding. Thank you for adding that at the end. The
I
reality of calamities. It doesn't mean it's always going to be easy.
Yeah, I feel no matter what is happening in my life, like even through the ups and down of the week, um, things have felt like I'm almost like a bystander watching things
Hmm.
happen. And I do things with my body, but like even when I'm feeling a little tired or maybe not very well, even if I'm feeling a little sick, um, just it doesn't make it any harder to do the things I have to do every day. Like, of course, do all my practices, my japa and my offerings, or take care of my daughter or go to work. Everything feels easy.
Mm.
And yeah, so that's and that's something I've known, but it just really felt like it went a little deeper this week since I haven't been feeling like physically up to par, and yet everything still seems just very aligned with what I think Guru
Nice.
and Prabhupada and Krishna would want me to be doing.
Well, we could give a whole class on that. That's a great major topic. Well, for one thing, regarding your health, we we have to be very careful to take care of our bodies. And Prabhupada said, he quotes a saying, Atmanam sarvato rakshet, tato dharmam, tato dhanam, which means that raksha means to protect. Atmanam, the self. Atmanam sarvato rakshet. So we have to first, he's giving a list of priorities. First, more important than anything, is our body. Atmanam sarvato rakshet. We really have to keep our bodies healthy. And that's something that over the years, in my experience of being around people practicing spiritual life, I would say the predominance of what I've seen is people not taking sufficient care of their bodies. And it can really come back, and we're seeing it come back to bite you in old age. We're not, the body it's not our body. And it's a wonderful tool. Now, let's say, for example, you're getting ready to take a boat and you're going to cross the ocean. You got to be real careful all along. Make sure your boat is ship shape before you take off. And all along the way, you can't, like, if you need to add some oil to the engine, you can't put it off. It's got to be done. Everything has got to be perfectly cared for to make that voyage. You can't neglect anything. And the most important voyage that we're all taking is our voyage back to the spiritual world. And this body is the vehicle. In fact, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a beautiful verse, Hrideham adyam sulabam sudurlabam pravam sukalpam guru karnadanam mayan kolena basvitaritam puman vedavadimna teitsa atma, where Nrdeham adyam, so this human form of life, Nrdeham adyam sulabam sudurlabam. Sulabam means that as we're evolving through the species, up and down, up and down, up and down, we will automatically come to the human form of life at various points. Sulabam, but it's sudurlabam. Sudurlabam means that it's very rare. Very, very rare. There's an analogy given that what are the chances of a turtle that's swimming out in the ocean, and there's a log floating that has a hole in it, and what are the chances of in the whole entire ocean, the turtle's going to come right to where that log is and stick his head up and look up? Turtles, they're air breathers. They can stay down for a really long time, but they have to come up to get air. So what are the chances of that turtle coming and sticking its head? That's an analogy that's given in the Vedas. I don't know the Puranas or how far back that goes, but we've heard that many times. This human form of life is really, really rare, even though it's automatically going to come, but it's really, really rare. I would say it's much, much, much rarer than it is to say win the lottery. Some of these big lotteries, they'll tell you what are your chances of winning. I mean, it's practically somewhere between nil and zero. It's not quite zero, but it's about as nil can get to win that lottery. But to get the human form of life, it's innumerable how many years it is. So we have the human form of life. Nirdehamadhyam sulabham sudurlabham plabham sukalpam guru karnadaram. But the human form of life is the perfect vessel to cross the ocean of material existence. Therefore, our bodies are precious. It can take us from the material world to the spiritual world. Can you imagine? All the ships in this world, where they can go from one continent in the material world to some other continent in the material world. They can't take you out of this world. It's just another place where birth and death occur. But with this human form of life, it's the perfect ship, the perfect vessel to take us back to the spiritual world. So, Sulavam Pavam Sukalpam Guru Karnadaram. And as long as we have a proper captain on board, the Guru Karnadaram, he is a Karnadaram means captain. And that's a whole other subject I can get into, the Sanskrit of why that's captain. It's really interesting. Hey, look who's here. Cute. That definitely looks like a toy. She doesn't look, she looks like a toy, like something you'd see in the store that, that's very popular. You can see somebody with their cart, rolling the cart along towards the cash register, and this cute little girl. Yeah, adorable. So, yeah, this human form of life. And then Krishna says, Mayana Kolena Basvataritam. So this is Krishna speaking. Mayana Kolena Basvataritam. Krishna says that I will provide the favorable breezes. Anukula. Anukulena means favorable. Like we talk about favorable devotional service. So Anukula Nibasvataritam, the breezes come by Krishna to impel this boat. In the last line, Puman Vivetna Vinam Pashugnat, that who will not take up this opportunity to use the human form of life to make this voyage, except someone who's wants to kill his own soul. Of course, the soul can't be killed, but so anyway, back to the health that. So Prabhupada says, or the verse that Prabhupada quotes says, "Atmanam sarvato rakshate." First thing, we got to take care of our bodies. Atmanam sarvato tato, which means what follows next. Tato danam. No, sorry, tato dharmam, and then tato dhanam. So second is our sadhana. Isn't that interesting? Sadhana is after the health of the body. And then the last is our dhanam, our wealth and acquisitions. So first is taking care of our bodies. So we really, really, really need to take care of our bodies. Eat healthy food, exercise, do whatever it takes to keep the body in a healthy state, because this is what's going to take us back to the spiritual world. And I've seen too many devotees abuse their bodies by the way they eat and so on. Okay, that's a great a great subject. And yeah, we see the world. To me, like it's like waking up from when you're starting to wake up from a dream. I was just speaking about this maybe in yesterday's class. I can't remember. But if we're having a bad dream, before we wake up, we hit this place in between where, oh, wait a minute, I think this is just, oh, thank God, I think this is maybe just a dream. We're still kind of out of it, but we're thinking, oh, I think this is. So when we that's how we start to see this life. It's really very dreamlike. All the things that seem so important become really insignificant, and we just see it as all. It's like a dream. So the ups and downs and so on. Eventually, we get to the point where we're like Queen Kunti. She prayed for calamities. She prayed, Viparak santu takshishvat tatra tatra jagaguru. Bhavato darshanam nasyada puna bhavadarshanam. So vipad means calamities, difficulties, obstacles. Viparak santu, let them come. Let them come. Viparak santu takshishvat tatra tatra jagaguru. Bhavato darshanam nasyad. Because when you put me in a calamitous situation, it makes me turn to you. There's a saying that we've all probably heard. There's no atheist in a foxhole. Does everybody know what that means? Maybe from other countries they can't. Let's see. Ganesham, do you understand what that means? There's no atheist in a foxhole. You know what a foxhole is? Ganesham?
Yes, Gurudev, I know that the foxhole is a what we call hole that you dig up while you're fighting. So in the war zone, you dig that hole. That's called a foxhole. And
Yeah,
when there's bomb bombarding and the guns, the bullets are firing against like there when someone is firing gun at you, you want to hide in the foxhole and you want to pray to Krishna like, hey Krishna, please save me.
yeah. So I guess the point of that is that even someone who's an atheist, even someone who's an atheist, non-theistic, doesn't believe in God, when he's in that foxhole and they start shooting the bombs your way, it kind of, puts the fire of Jesus in them, right? It sort of, it awakens. So, yeah. Okay. Anybody else have something they wanted to share? Because I was going to share something that was really quite sweet. On when my mother developed Alzheimer's disease, my family tried to take care of her as best we could. But as she got sicker, my sister was interviewing people to try to get someone to live with my mom. And my sister found this wonderful, wonderful woman who was from Jamaica. And she was very religious. She was a Christian, and she was like, really into Jesus. Now she didn't push it too much, but clearly she was very, very, very devoted. So she used to call me every year to talk to me on my birthday. But first, I hadn't heard from her for years. I guess, it'd been, gosh, my mom left this world. Um, my mom left this world, let's see, how long ago would that be? 20, almost 30 years ago. So I hadn't heard from her for a number of years, but she called me on my birthday. And I started speaking with her, and I started to talk to her about Christianity. I wanted to share with her because I know that she would really like that. And I really felt when she called me this time that I really felt um, like a god brother of hers, a Jesus god brother. And I kind of wanted to, especially while we're all together, thank Tirtha Prabhu for that, because it was so sweet that I mean, it really showed me in my heart that I got a lot of Jesus in me. And I could really relate to where she was at. And I started quoting some verses that I'd learned from Tirtha Prabhu and that I really like from the Bible. And she was so excited. She was, and it wasn't just to excite her. The whole thing was just so sweet. And we talked for a really long time. And so it's really having Jesus is not just the sweetness of that, but it's like it's so sweet that I can really not just accept Christianity as the real deal, but realize it's the real deal by feeling Jesus in my life. I think that it's just been just an incredible boost. You don't normally hear that amongst devotees. It's like you don't. It's like you're already. It's like we're up here, and Jesus is. It's real, but it's kind of down here. But by being with Tirtha Prabhu, I realized, wait a minute, no, it goes all the way up to the top as well, because Tirtha Prabhu can explain how Jesus, all the rasas are there in 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 the teachings of Jesus and the scriptures, the Hebrew scriptures, etc. So it was such a wonderful time I had with her, and I wasn't able to do that before. I had my religion, she had hers, and we both respected each other. But this time it was like, no, it's like um, Jesus is in my heart, and I showed her my Jesus that lives on my altar, the Sacred Heart. It shows this beautiful Sacred Heart. So anyway, that was it made me really, and we're all really fortunate, quite frankly, in our Sangha to have Tirtha Prabhu with us, because it really it just really expands. It sure helped me a lot. Okay,
Very
so
cool. Thanks for
yeah,
sharing that, Gurudev.
anything you wanted to say in that regard, Tirtha Prabhu?
No, it was great to hear. I love hearing about those connections. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was wonderful. It's and I told her the story. I told her about the walking the stations of the cross and touch. I was following my teacher, my Jesus guru, and I reached up and touched the feet of Jesus, and it was just like, oh, that's
Yeah. Very good.
Hari Krishna, Hari Bo.
yeah.
Could I say,
You want to say something, Prabhuji?
yes, Guru Dave. I just wanted to, maybe you could speak about how Jesus traveled to Braj and discovered Lord Jagannath.
Well, I'm going to let Tirtha Prabhu speak in that regard.
Yeah, there are writings that talk about Jesus traveling in India, going to the Jagannath temple, and Prabhupada says that Jesus was thick and thin with the priests of Lord Jagannath, and that is why Jagannath came to America, where there's so many Christians. So that there's numerous passages and different writings that give reference to that. It's not in the Bible, but yeah.
Prabhupada has talked about it, and all the, not all, but many of the acharyas have described Jesus as a Shakti Vaishnavatar, completely empowered. And he was teaching for time and circumstance. And another realization I was having when I was speaking with Olive, the lady who took care of my mom, that though Jesus was teaching for time and circumstance, and she's definitely a meat eater, but I was feeling that that's okay. In other words, it's ultimately it's something that we give up, but it was time and circumstance. And when I meet someone like her, who who is so advanced, her whole life is about God. I find it hard to believe that Jesus isn't taking her or leading her along the way to eventually where this will be given up. So Prabhupada gets really heavy about that. I guess when he's speaking with the teachers, the cardinals and so on. But I was just feeling like I wasn't going to bring up the subject, and I thought Jesus has got it taken care of. He knows what's going on, and he's leading them, and I felt real comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
It says in the 11th chapter, the Universal Form, text 55, only Lord Jesus Christ is mentioned once. And he says in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, text 55, that Lord Jesus Christ was persecuted by the non-devotees, or he was for spreading of God consciousness, but it's superficial to understand he was killed. Then he mentions Hari Dasa.
Of course, yeah. Our understanding is nobody is ultimately killed. The souls are eternal.
Correct.
Yeah.
Eternal spirit souls. So you can neither be slain when the body is slain. Soul is eternal.
Right. Okay, so we got. Oh my God, we're halfway through. We're halfway through already. We haven't even touched our questions. So we've got some great questions here, and I'm going to start with Ellie's questions. She says, "Good morning, Gurudev. Please accept humble obeisances. I have a couple of questions for today's Sangha that were inspired by your Bhagavatam talk on Monday. How can we reduce our material desires for kāma, dharma, artha, and mokṣa?" That's a great question. Does everybody know what karma, dharma, artha, and mokṣa are? Who can tell us?
Moksha is liberation.
Mm-hmm.
Dharma is eternal occupation. And karma is temporary in the material world.
It's pretty good.
Action, karma is action.
That's pretty good. Okay, so we're going to talk about kāma, dharma, artha, and mokṣa. How do we give these things up? How do we reduce our desires for kāma, which is sense gratification, dharma, which is religiosity, artha, which is wealth that we need in this world, and mokṣa, liberation? How do we material liberation? How do we give this up? And the answer is that we can't. We cannot make desires go away. Desires are normal. What we have to do is spiritualize these things. So Kāma means that we want to enjoy.
Hanging around my stuff. Yeah.
Where's that sound coming from?
It's coming from Prabhu at the temple.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Jeffrey, can you mute yourself? We're hearing some
Yes,
sounds.
Okay. Yes, I can.
Just hit your mute button. So we can't give these things up, but we spiritualize them. So first, kāma means to enjoy, to try to enjoy. Specifically, it's talking about the senses. So we use our senses to find pleasure in serving Krishna. So just like nobody's going to give up, well, pretty much nobody, maybe some special yogis, but the desire to eat is there. Does everybody like to eat when you're hungry? Eat a nice meal, eat nice prashad. That's normal, right? We can't give that up. We all love to eat, but we eat prasadam and we relish it. And Prabhupada would serve. When he was serving devotees himself, he would know, take more, take more, take more. One time Prabhupada said, give them prasadam till they waddle like a duck. So I really like to eat. And I think we all do. And that's normal. People eat in the spiritual world. Don't we read about Krishna and the cowherd boys when they're out and their moms make them a nice lunch? Prabhupada called it a tiffin. A tiffin. What is a tiffin? Is that the box specifically? The word tiffin.
It's the lunchbox, Gurudev.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking like a lunchbox. Yeah, tiffin. I think that's more of a British term. You don't hear it so much in America. But so yeah, and Krishna loved to eat, doesn't he? He likes to eat, likes yogurt and butter and so on. So that's normal. And we see people in the spiritual world, they're eating. So we eat and we satisfy us, just like listening to music. Everybody likes listening to music, don't they? That's our sense. That's a sense of hearing. We can't. You're not going to give it up. So we transfer it to hearing kirtan. Ellie, I see you in how much you become absorbed in the kirtans at the temple. Ellie's become, by the way, an excellent kartal player. Tirtha Prabhu was also he was a natural. Of course, Tirtha Prabhu was a drummer, so he's got that, and Ellie's got it too. Quite frankly, when I was giving Ellie her first playing kartal lesson, I was thinking, I don't know. Well, let's see how this goes. She was getting a little off to a little bit of it seemed like a rough start, but it was very short and very quickly she was like, she had it. So when in the kirtans, many times at the temple, she's the only one playing the kartals. Someone's playing the harmonium. I'll play the drum because there's only a few of us there. I'll play the drum and then she'll play the kartals. She plays beautifully. So we love hearing music. We love hearing kirtan, and we like to smell nice things. So we burn incense and so on, or the four Kumaras. They were impersonalists, but when they smelled the tulsi leaves that were on the feet of Krishna, they went mad. They became full-time devotees, although they were already impersonalists. But now they just fell in love with Krishna. So we use our senses in the service of Krishna. And because we are not going to be able to give that up. We want to use this body. We have this body, so we use that in that sense. So kāma, and then artha. Artha means the materialist. They want to enjoy their senses separate from Krishna. And the materialist artha, that means they want wealth. So how do we give up that desire? Well, the reality is we don't. We have to, we're living in this world. So we make money, we go to work, we do things we need to do so we can take care of our family. It's connected to Krishna. We go to work and we're happy going to work because we're going to use this money. And quite frankly, I've always seen my money, especially when I went into the wedding industry and money started coming in, and really seeing it as Krishna's. And I was happy to make as much as I could. That way I was able to buy books and give. I was distributing more books than the temple. What they were doing and what I was doing, collectively, all of them and me, I was doing more than the temple, giving out books. Because at every wedding, I was giving books out to people. So, yeah, we're fine to have money because you really pretty much need it in this world. Try to think if none of us had any money at all, zero. For some reason, we were penniless. That would be very difficult, right? So it makes things nice when we're able to get what we need. We've got to take care of our families. Okay, and so we don't give that up. And kāma, and dharma. So dharma is, we have to, the materialist, their dharma is that they are conducting their life in such a way that they will elevate themselves. But that elevation, that dharma, is for like going to heavenly planets and so on. They want to do the right thing and get good karma. That's dharma. We're acting dharmically, but material dharma. And I think you're asking here, what's the difference between the two? We'll get to that. So devotees, there's two kinds of dharma that we're doing. We're doing, just like you're taking care of your child, Ellie, and that's in this lifetime, probably for the rest of your life, you're going to be mommy. And that's your dharma in this life. But the things that we gain in our material, it's all temporary. And the results of material dharma are temporary. If you go to heavenly planets, you can't stay there. But a devotee, he's doing dharma for Krishna. So you're taking care of your child, but you're doing that in such a way that you're giving Krishna to your child and to everyone in your life. Now, you're not going to be taking care of Leela forever. It's just temporary. She's only going to be Leela for this lifetime, and then it goes on. But that's your service in this life. That's your dharma. Take care of her, but give her Krishna the best of your ability. And that's probably going to be there. From what I see, parents, they're always watching after their children. I know my mom, even when I was, doing well in my life, I was a man, I was still her baby. So that's normal. And Moksha. The materialist wants to become freed from their sins. They want to get relieved from their sins, and they want their pains to stop. But a devotee, the liberation that we're looking for is to become liberated from anything material and simply want to dedicate our life to Krishna, to simply serve Krishna. We want to become freed from all the illusions of I and mine, and we want to become liberated from that so that all we want to do is please Krishna. Materialist is thinking, what can God give me? But a devotee is thinking, what can I give to God? That's the major difference. So what is the difference between Dharma in this world and spiritual Dharma? I guess I pretty much explained that. There are two different types of Dharma. For a materialist, he's doing Dharma to get something from God. Heavenly planets, wealth. He's doing all the things so that he improves his situation in the material world by Dharma. But a devotee, his Dharma is to please Krishna. That's Sanātana. You're not going to be serving Leela forever. You're going to serve her in this lifetime, and then it's gone. Because she's not even really Leela. This is just a life that she's taking and so on. So that's temporary. That's temporary Dharma, but it's offered to Krishna. But then our Sanātana-dharma is where we're hearing and chanting, etc., and coming closer to Krishna. That's because chanting Krishna's name is not only a tool, but it's actually the goal. The goal is to just chant. In the spiritual world, everyone's calling Krishna, Krishna. So that's really eternal Dharma. Talking about Krishna, remembering Krishna, that's what we're doing right here. This is what's going on in the spiritual world. Everyone's talking about Krishna. When we come to these, we don't talk about mundane things. We may mention something mundane to help us understand something, understand like the miseries of this world, etc. So our Sanātana-dharma is hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. And the others are things that we do while we're in this world. Arjuna was a Kshatriya, but he's not a Kshatriya back in the spiritual world. He's taking the role of a Kshatriya in this world in the service to Krishna. Does that answer those questions?
Yes, thank you, Gurudev. That was beautiful.
Yeah, we don't give up desire. We don't stop desiring. You can't. It's not going to work. The soul is all about being happy. Okay. Now, boy, we're almost out of time. Nitai Prabhu, would you read that little section that you sent me at the end about where Prabhupada was talking about taking risks for Krishna? Would you read that letter?
Yes. Yeah, Prabhupada's saying, so far I'm concerned, I always take risk for Krishna. I came here in your country risking my life. And still, although I'm physically unfit, I'm trying to execute the orders of my Guru Maharaj as far as possible. So to take risk for Krishna is very good. You know the history of my starting the society in 1966. It was all risky and I was alone, but I took it depending on Krishna. Letter to Gargamuni, 1968, Los Angeles.
1968. Wow, that was right in the beginning. 1968. Wow. Okay, so Prabhupada is encouraging us to take risks for Krishna. But what does that mean? Kirti, you want to take a shot at this one? How would you say that applies to us?
Well, I think part of how I think of taking risks is acting boldly. I can remember times where you cautioned me, warned me as a pastor, because you heard what I was preaching and teaching.
Yeah.
And you said, I don't want you to lose your job. But to the contrary, it actually enamored people even more to my teaching. It was bold, but not in the sense that I was being bold for boldness' sake. It was more like, I think of I'll give a short story. When I was 8 years old or so, out in front of our house, there were two huge dogs that came down and ripped me off of my bicycle and got me down on the ground and were attacking me. And one of them sunk its teeth into my leg.
Oh
And
my.
my mom, she's much shorter now, but at the time she was 5'2". She came out of the front door with a broom. And those two huge dogs did not want to take on my mom. She acted with total boldness, but the boldness was coming from love.
Mm,
It was coming from love. And I think that's where the greatest boldness comes from. Acting boldly is when we are acting in love, when we are relying on our love for the Lord. It's not that we're trying to be bold so that people see how bold we are, but it's because of our love that drives us to be bold. That's
nice.
one reflection.
That's helpful. Yeah, my thoughts were that Prabhupada, he came to the Western world, which was risky, an old man. And he did in fact have 2 heart attacks coming here. But it wasn't whimsical. He did a lot of planning before he came. He made sure that he had his paperwork was all taken care of. He brought all kinds of things that he thought he would uh, need. Most important, he brought the Bhagavatams with him. It was all very, very carefully planned. And he was actually above encouraged. He was instructed by his guru to go to the Western world. So he knew that Krishna wanted this. It wasn't whimsical. On more than one occasion, Bhaktisiddhanta told him when he first met Prabhupada, the first thing Prabhupada said when him and his friend Naren met Bhaktisiddhanta, Bhaktisiddhanta said, you should preach in the West. English-speaking men should go preach in the West. And Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta came to Prabhupada in his dreams on several occasions and encouraged him to go to the West. So it wasn't whimsical. It was clear. It wasn't like on a whim. It was clear this is what Krishna wanted. And he showed that by the fact that when he came to America and he saw how are people I don't think he ever saw a hippie, because at that time it wasn't cool to go to Vrindavan. Nobody went. Vrindavan was just like, barely, it was like on life support system. There were just, some sadhus there and so on. But no, it wasn't an open place of pilgrimage. So when he got to the Western world, he was quite shocked when he saw in reality. I mean, you can read about what it's like in the Western world, but only when you get there and really see it and smell it and taste it and feel it and so on. But he knew Krishna was with him, and he prayed to Krishna. Krishna, I don't know why you've brought me here. There must be some that Markine Bhagavat Dharma, the prayer that he wrote. By the way, Markine means the West. Bhagavat Dharma, the what has to be done in the West, the Dharma, what has to be done in the Western world. So he was praying to Krishna. Krishna, you brought me here for some reason, so I'm just your puppet. Make me dance, make me dance. It wasn't whimsical. So we don't want to do anything whimsical. Not that kind of risk. And Prabhupada also told us, he said, you can go after a big fish, but don't get wet. In other words, we don't want to do something where it's very risky and we could fall down in our service. Or we wouldn't take temple funds and do something risky with them. This is Krishna's money. So I like what Tirtha said. We're bold. We'll be bold for Krishna. But we don't act foolishly. Not that kind of risk. So actually, I think what Tirtha said was really one of the best answers. Being bold for Krishna in that sense, but not foolish. Not foolish. And it's normal, by the way. Let's say if I actually this has happened before. I was out on Mahasankirtan on more than one occasion where we were chanting in the streets, and some crazy person went up to one of the women, and I'm not I'm not like a Kshatriya type, but I just tackled the person, and that's another thing. So, like if something happened to God forbid, something happened to Leela, well, mom's going to be right on their case no matter what. And we saw that with Mother Jasoda. When Krishna was in the coils of the Kaliya serpent, she was willing to enter into that water, which is all toxic. Everything around that lake where he was contaminated, was dead because it was so toxic. But she was ready to go in and attack the serpent. But I believe it was Nanda Maharaj or some of the Brijbasis, they stopped her, but she was ready to go. That's his mommy instinct. So that's my understanding of taking a risk for Krishna. We'll take the risk, but only if it makes sense. It's well calculated. And when we're not sure, we consult with other devotees. Then we know we're good to go. Okay, then those are time here. Oh, okay. So Prabhupada, we're out of time. I'm not going to be able to read the whole thing, but Prabhupada's talking about the importance of reading all of his books. And he said it over and over again, how important it is to read his books. And he talks about how by reading the books, we'll be able to defend Krishna consciousness to either non-believers or to convince others is by reading his books. But one of the important things, even more important in my opinion, is not just that were the books used for preaching to convince other people. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm constantly preaching to myself on a practically a moment-to-moment basis. And by understanding the philosophy, I can preach to myself. Does that make sense? Knowing the philosophy is really important. Reading about and understanding about the miseries of this material world and so on and so forth. It's, well, I'm not the body. The soul's transmigrating. Understanding all of this keeps me completely in line. But then Prabhupada says, and I like he really balanced it. He said, if you chant the Maha Mantra, but you cannot read books, there is no harm. There is no loss. The chanting is sufficient. So some people, quite frankly, they're not readers and they're not so philosophically inclined, but they're really inclined towards serving Krishna. And in those particular cases, it's fine. I've mentioned before that I heard a tape, and I wish I would have put down where it was, where Prabhupada was talking about the importance of reading his books, read his books, read his books. But for some very special people, they're just not readers and they're not philosophically inclined. They just want to serve Krishna. That's fine. But for most of us, I'm encouraging all of my students, read Prabhupada's books. Because when you're reading his books, it's not that you're just learning a philosophy, you're being purified by it. It's just like chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. When you're reading, when you're hearing, it's doing the same thing. It's washing our heart. They're non-different. Prabhupada says there's book Bhagavat and person Bhagavat. They're both Krishna. They're both Guru. Prabhupada, when you're reading Prabhupada's books, you're talking to Prabhupada. I can still remember when I first read the Bhagavad Gita, living in my truck. I was reading Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada says they're talking to me, convincing me and purifying my heart just by reading that book. So unless we have a good reason for not reading them, or we're just not a reader, we should read all of Prabhupada's books, especially the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. And if we can, the Chaitanya Charitamrita. The Bhagavad Gita tells us to surrender to Krishna. That's the bottom line. The Srimad Bhagavatam is all about how to surrender to Krishna. We see all these great devotees. And the Chaitanya Charitamrita is all about what happens when you surrender to Krishna. It's all about Leela, that his devotees are experiencing, Lord Chaitanya's associates. So we're out of time. Any final questions or anything that's not clear? I was thinking, as it just came to my mind, regarding risk, I just thought of some examples of devotees that took great risk. One was Prahlad. He stood up against his father, who was the most powerful demon ever. And he came out victorious. What Dhruva did when he went off to the forest at 5 years old, at great risk. He just went to the forest. But he ended up finding Krishna. So, I mean, there's many examples. Haridas Thakur, they told, just like Jesus, they told Jesus to stop preaching, right? Tirtha Prabhu, and he wouldn't stop. Didn't someone tell him, just stop and we'll let you go?
Well,
Who was that?
there were all kinds of threats and so forth against him in his preaching.
But didn't they say, we'll let you go, just cut it, stop preaching?
Well, they said that to Peter,
okay.
the follower of Jesus. They said, didn't we tell you to stop preaching in this name? If you just give up preaching that, we'll let you go. And Peter's response was, I must obey God rather than men.
Nice. So Haridas Thakur, Haridas Thakur was chanting, constantly. He was chanting and chanting and chanting. So the Muslims, they wanted him to stop, and they said, "Stop, or we're going to kill you." And he said, famous verse. He says, "Kanda kanda hai jeha, kanda kanda hai deya jari jari chan, kanda kanda hai deya, kanda kanda hai deya jari, tamo abhivandani, tabu amavandani nachari harinam." Yes. Kanda kanda hai deya jari jari pran. He says, kanda means to cut. Kanda kanda hai deya jaya jari pran. Tabu amavandani nachari harinam. I will not stop chanting. Tabu means in spite of the fact. You can cut me until the life airs leave my body. Kanda kanda hai deya jari jari pran. Pran means your life airs. You can cut me till the life airs are leaving. Tabu, which means like in spite of or nonetheless. Tabu amivandane, within my mouth. Nachari, that means to give up. Harinam, I'll never stop chanting. I'll never stop chanting. Kill me, but I won't stop chanting. Great risk, but came out victorious. So anyway, those are some things about. I think Tirtha really nailed it. Bold. These devotees, they're bold because of their conviction that Krishna will protect them. But they're not. This is not foolish. They're not acting foolishly. Okay, Prabhujis. Thank you so much. Wonderful, wonderful being with you, and I look forward to being back with you again next week.
All right.
Hare Krishna, Srila
Thank
Prabhupada
you.
Ki Jai. Hare Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sahash Hari Bol.
Hare